Enter, stranger, but take heed of what awaits exploiters of greed. For those who reap but do not earn must pay most dearly in their turn. So if you seek to exploit the thieves, blood shards you could have farmed with ease. Exploiter, you have been warned. Beware of finding your account less left than bare. Thank you for joining us here tonight on episode 47 of the Westmarch Workshop of Blood Thieves and Bands.
There it is. Yes. Here is episode 47. And that sounded like something I should know.
It is something that you should know.
But I don't know what I should know.
It is Harry Potter.
Harry Potter?
Yes.
Wait, I'm like racking my brain now. Which part?
I believe that one was from the Sorcerer's Stone.
Oh, man, you're going deep into the well.
Yeah.
I can't say that I have read or recall that one
Yep.
in years.
Yeah, that one I believe is like one of the inscriptions for going into the catacombs where the Sorcerer's Stone was left.
Oh, okay. Okay, cool, man. I like it. And of course, it spoils a little bit, or hints at, I suppose, one of our biggest news topics this week. A couple of interesting things that occurred during the last week.
Yeah.
Even started developing as early as the tail end of our last episode.
Yeah, that was one of the things I started getting bombarded with in chat there as people going through and talking about it like halfway through our interview.
Right. And I just remember looking and being like, oh dear, is this a real thing? This can't be a thing. But we'll get there, I suppose.
Yeah, definitely. We'll get to it. But first, let's talk about our weeks in gaming. How was your week last week?
Man, well, last week felt like enough for a lifetime. When we last convened, of course, we had Wyatt here, and we were talking about many things, but one of the things we did talk about was some of the conquests. And I mentioned that I was able to snag the On a Good Day, which was the level 40... Sorry, level 40 gems to 40. Yeah, that's that one. Level 6 gems, legendary gems to level 40. I had gotten that.
The way things are going, we probably will see level 40 gems to 40 as one of the conquests here shortly.
If the numbers just keep ramping up, yeah. I'll be curious, actually, to see if we get to 40 gems in the game, just, how long it takes to slow roll, or, I mean, I guess maybe with the news that we got last week, we might not have slow rolling anymore, but, so it'll be an interesting thing to just see how long it takes to accumulate all your legendary gems as they keep adding more and more. But yeah, so grab that, and then spent the rest of last week and up to today, kind of targeting the other conquests, but not necessarily trying to force them into being. More just, doing gameplay that hopefully would net me on the way there. And of course, one of the things we discussed at the end of that episode was trying to get the curses, the cursed chest one, which is, of course, kill 300 enemies during one cursed chest event. And that night, we did get it successfully, if you recall.
Yeah, we went through, we hopped on that one, we slaughtered it.
Oh, yeah. I couldn't believe, actually, because I remember early in the season, we were contemplating, okay, we're probably going to want to do Act 1, Cursed Bellows, the Halls of Agony 3 Cursed event, because it just seemed like so many skeletons would spawn out of there. They're easy pickings, easy targets, and we did try that one a few times and got somewhat close. I remember a couple of 250s or so, 240s, etc. But man, this Cursed Pete, the Act 5 one in Paths of the Drowned, I believe,
yeah,
thing just spawns monsters like you wouldn't believe.
Yeah, that one started a little bit slow, but once it got going, it was non-stop. It's like every time it didn't have like the delay in spawning. They were just going in droves.
Oh yeah, it was nasty, dude. So we had your DH, my Barb, and I was using the Hurricane rune on Whirlwind just to help with a little bit of pulling in. We had I believe, was it 3 days JPT and his support wizard, I think. It's hard to remember who was using what because so many things have changed over time now. And then I think there was a third person with us, or fourth person, and I'm gonna feel bad for forgetting. Oh boy.
Yeah, it was. I know it was a clanmate that was
Mm-hmm.
there that just happened to be in raid call with us at the time, and we just went to, as we were just putting together the group together, I was like, since we only had the three people from our group, we just went to invite them over because it
Yeah,
was like, why not? The more damage, the better.
for sure. But yeah, like you mentioned, it was far and away surpassing the 300 mark. I think we ended up with like 418 enemies killed in that event. So if any of you listening are having trouble with that event, or you're trying, or with that conquest, or you're trying to get a like a
Actually, it's remembering two different occurrences together. It was actually Lala was the third person there with us. It was just the three of us. It was the
oh,
second time going through and doing it with 3 days afterwards. Is that you also went through and had gotten someone else from the group, I think.
you're right, you're right. Yes, yes, yes. So yeah, there was only the three of us. Oh, that's right, because she was using the Cyclone Strike on her monk. You're right.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Yep. So yeah, if you guys are curious or in need of that conquest, I definitely recommend Cursed Pete. It's a bit of a rare occurrence, but it does show up as a bounty. So if you just roll games on Act 5 until you see it, get a friend to hop in with you. We were, it got to the point where we were in the clan just saying like, hey, if you find the Cursed Pete, we will literally jump in the game with you and help you get that conquest if you care about it.
Mm-hmm.
And once you find it, that's really the hardest part because yeah, like Nineball was saying, those enemies, they spawn and they don't stop spawning.
Oh yeah.
So yeah, so that was a part of the last week in gaming, and then after that, I started to target the Dynasty Conquest, which is the clearing Greater Rift 40 in 3 different sets. And I thought I'd be clever and just put on, the shoulders and like the chest piece of the Earth set, but then just go full IK and
Mm-hmm.
not ever use the Earth set because I'm just like, well, I have IK. Why wouldn't I just use my skills around that? And
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 how did that work out for you?
well, it turns out you can't really game it that way. You need the full bonuses of the set, and it doesn't expressly say that, so the wording could be a bit better on the conquest. But you do need the full, like you don't have to wear the full set. So let's say for Ring of Rogrander, it's a 4-piece bonus to wear the entire set. Then all you have to do is just wear 3 pieces. But you do need to have all of those bonuses lit up in order for it to count for the conquest. So I did end up doing it, I want to say like 2 days ago. I actually did run Raycor, so I had, the 5-piece on that and was actually using Furious Charge. But then I did do 3 pieces of the Earth set, the Earth and Might, or I don't even know what it's called because, haven't even delved into it. But I did that with 6-piece IK and I literally just whirlwinded instead of doing anything with Avalanche or Earthquake or anything.
Yeah.
So I was able to check that one off. And then happily, randomly, was working on a build combining the Avarice Band, the Act 3 ring, where as you collect more gold, your pickup radius also increases. Was trying to mess with that to make a speed farming build on the Barbarian.
Mm-hmm.
And as I was getting into some of those more open areas and rifts, like your Battlefields of Eternity, your what's another one? Fields of Misery map, etc. I would say, oh, okay, well, I have this huge area. These are going to be, ideal for just whirlwinding nonstop. Maybe I'll try and do gold find on some of my pieces and see if I can just collect gold and go for Avaricia. And got to a Battlefields of Eternity map and was just rolling along and managed to snag that one too. So
Yeah, and you could really see how much that band really makes a difference. I watched your video on it, and it's just like, normally you'll see your character on the screen, you pick up gold like around that one, maybe a little bit bigger if you have a lot, but you were picking up from like the edge of the screen as you were going and whirlwinding by.
oh yeah, and you would think because I remember early on some of the best strategies were going to be go to Ruins of Corvus and not necessarily pick up all the gold as fast as possible because you wanted to chain it and move through areas that might not be as dense, but leave some gold here and there so you can keep the streak refreshed. But of course, with the Avarice Band, your pickup radius is so huge, you really don't have a choice on what you're picking up or not.
Oh no, not at all.
But that's why it worked so well was because as you're killing things, you're moving, and I guess why it works so well with Whirlwind in particular, as you're moving around the map killing things, you're killing stuff behind you. So like let's say you're using Pain Enhancer or Gemmificacious Toxin, stuff is going to die off screen. But as you circle back around, you're grabbing the gold. So you're just constantly updating your streak because, even if you're not, trying to go out of your way to leave a pile or two, you end up going back for some that you just can't get because you're moving forward so quickly anyway.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, that was pretty cool just to happily come across that one. And other than that, trying to get that speed racer, man, that's the last one to round out the 5 conquests, and that's been one of my major parts of hitting this season so hard is just trying to knock the conquests out early since they are kind of time limited things.
Yeah, yeah. That one, not in any rush for that one, despite the rush that the conquest itself entails. Just because I think it's still currently only 3 people have completed it so far this season.
Well, originally when we were trying it last night, there were 5 people that had done it. A group of 3, 2 DHs, and a Crusader, and then actually 2 DHs just by themselves, which to me is just crazy.
That is crazy.
I can't believe it. And some people have done it solo, which is even more astounding and crazy. But then I want to say this morning, another group of 3 got it. And it was a mishmash. It was a witch doctor, a monk, and I want to say a DH. So I hadn't seen that combination yet at all. So yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, that one we can definitely go through and put some attempts into that one. It takes a little bit of dedication because you're at least going to be an hour into it.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that's kind of the tough part is can you set aside that time and possibly do it twice in one night, since you're going to learn things from each run, you kind of want to always be building on what you learned from the last one.
Yep. Well, we can always go through and try again tomorrow.
Oh, yes. Yes. And how was your week in gaming? I recall a few random events, perhaps?
Yeah, ever so slightly. My week in gaming actually was starting off really good because I completed the Unhallowed set, got my focus and restraint, was just killing it. Going through, did a couple, 37 greater rifts, just leveling up gems and such. Kind of getting a feel for in order to make that push up to greater rift 40. In order to start working on that achievement for the sets. And yeah, then last night. Yep. I was going through, because Monday we were going to go through and put our first attempts in for the Speed Racer Conquest, and something came up that I completely forgotten about. It kind of caught me off guard, and so I wasn't able to participate. And that was the night that we were going to go and level up our Wreath of Lightning gems just for that little extra piece of speed boost. And so yesterday, before we were going to go through and do it, I was chain running some greater rifts to get it leveled up. I was running my last one to get my Wreath of Lightning up to 25. And as soon as I zone into the instance, I get hit by a double champion, a champion and elite, both with Waller. And of course, the champion goes through and puts down the little corral. And then the other one puts down, the 4 walls. And it was just like, oh crap.
Oh dear.
Yep. So I just got stuck right there and just started blasting all sorts of nasty stuff, and I did not make it. So unfortunately my character got killed right before we were going to go through and do this. And this is the first hardcore character I've lost since before season 1.
Just crazy when you stop and think about it. Yeah.
Yep. And it just was so much damage. And even I posted the screenshot on Twitter. I was smashing my smoke screen button in order to go through and try and survive, but it has that little half second. It doesn't actually start the cooldown until the effect is over. And so I'm mashing it to try and hit it so that way as soon as it comes up, it'll work. But you can see even in the screenshot that it took, I died saying you cannot use the skill yet, and then the button is off of cooldown.
Oh.
Yeah, so it was literally split second away from potentially surviving and making it all the way to the waypoint, which was it's just barely off screen in that screenshot. So lost. I wasn't too beat up over the gear because the only thing that was unreplaceable in that one was my focus and restraint, my Dead Man's Legacy. I had backup gear of everything else, and that's when 3 days and Lieutenant Lunatic went and power leveled up a new character, and it got to 70 within 36 minutes. Why I know how long it took because I'm getting there. Yeah, and it's went through, and as soon as I got to 70, I put on all of my backup gear as well as some gear for the impending speed run because I lost all of my Greater Rift trial keys. So we're going to do one more rift, get a rift trial key, go through, do that so I can get it leveled up. But then I realized all my skills are screwed up. So I open up the skill pane to go through and do it. But unfortunately, I did this while I was inside the rift, like right at the entrance. And just some, just like the little insect swarms came up and killed me while I was standing at the entrance, like one-shotted me before I could even exit out of the screen and leave the rift. So I then lost all of my backup gear, all of my Speed Racer gear, and there was the one guy, I forgot his name, in the clan chat said, "That sounds like a pretty softcore mistake," and it was. It was. I wasn't that beat up over the first death, but then the second death was because of my own stupidity, and just was like, okay, I'll just take a little bit of a break now. The game is telling me something.
Right.
So here I am running around in Marauders because it's the only thing I have left.
Welcome back, Season 2 and 1.
Welcome back, Season 2 and Season 1 there. But it was so painful going and just losing, not just losing the two characters, but just losing all of that gear right in a row.
Yeah, I mean, it's tough too because, one of the things that we were actually just talking about last episode is hardcore still hardcore, with all the different means of being able to save your Paragon, being able to save your gear and your stash and stuff. And of course, what we never really think about is quick deaths in succession. We're looking at, you save up a bunch of backup gear, copies of stuff that are either just as good or a little less good of what you're wearing currently. And it usually helps to mitigate death because then you're like, oh, well, I don't have to worry about if I die that much because it's not going to be that much of a step back. However, when you die quickly in succession, you eradicate all of that backup gear. So it's essentially as if you are hard resetting. I remember you basically said it's like starting a brand new seasonal character. Yeah,
because it's like it's full of Marauders, so I'm having to relearn the playstyle a little bit. I don't have any of the proper gems for the build leveled up, and it's just kind of it's not even. I've just been kind of keeping the best Marauders piece that I found, but it's not actually trying to go and make sure that it's the best pieces are really just keeping a piece of Marauders set in my stash, just because I'm a collector, and so it's not that very well itemized. My toughness is kind of low. My damage is kind of crap because I don't have a decent weapon. Because unfortunately, after I put on all of my backup gear, I went through and I enchanted all of it. So I had 0 Forgotten Souls. And I'd spent a lot of time previously crafting arcane barbs to try and get a ancient one, which I guess on the bright side I hadn't found one yet, because that would have been gone. So I also have no white materials. I need to just go through and farm Battlefields of Eternity real quick.
For sure. Hopefully we'll get you back on your feet. Come back to next week's episode and you'll be back tearing things up. Those DHs seem to bounce back quickly enough.
Yeah.
So yeah, I guess some of the things that we've been talking. Oh, actually, sorry. Did you have anything else from the week in gaming that you wanted to highlight?
Not terribly. Other than that, it's pretty much. Yeah. No, that covers it.
All right. Yeah, it's funny. You wouldn't have had much to say unless last night didn't happen. So it's kind of. Maybe it was just for the good of creating a nice story for the show. You had to sacrifice these 2 DHs, but a bit of a bummer, of course. I felt really sad. We're going through and getting ready to do the speed racer, and all of a sudden it's like, okay, sub someone else in for 9-ball, and I was hoping. Of course, I wanted to get the conquest, but I also want to do it with you too. So.
Aww. You guys got close. What was it? You missed it by like 4 minutes, 2 minutes, something
Two
like that.
minutes. The second run was 2 minutes, and I actually was thinking back on it throughout the day today, and there really were places we could have gained that time too. We just had a couple of like weird snafus and some bad RNG. Act two lost us a bit of time, so
Hmm.
it's definitely doable. It's definitely doable. Just got to get in there and have all the stars align.
Pretty
Um,
much.
yeah. So I'm looking at our news items and some of the stuff we've already started to touch on. I wanted to lead off with an item that's from last week's episode. Of course, Wyatt came on the show. We're super thankful for him stopping by and just chatting with us as a player, a little bit as a developer as well, just talking about some of the things that are going on. And of course, one of the nuggets that he dropped and exploded was that the trials will be removed sometime in the future. They're already playing with an internal build at Blizzard where there are no trials. And of course, some of the tough things that come along with that and how they're trying to work around, what the other downstream effects are of removing trials. So what did you see in the community in terms of a response to that news coming out?
Honestly, I saw nothing but praise. Just a lot of people are happy that at least they've acknowledged that trials are broken and trials are going away. Of course, you're going to see still a little bit of vitriol. It is, unfortunately, it is kind of like uh, it's kind of like a staple of the Diablo community, as it were. There's a little bit of negativity going through and saying, "Oh well, you should just do it now. If you're already doing it internally, you should just do it now. Who cares?"
Of course.
Yeah, it's like, oh, no one is gonna go through and do it where they play, like in a group. I got it to like Greater Rift 60. I'm not gonna go through and try and do 60 solo if I can just pick whichever one that I've completed and such. So uh, it is what it is, but I think it's just it's a lot of people. I guess almost everyone. I'm not seeing anybody saying no keep trials, um, but almost everyone that I've seen, every conversation that I've seen is just oh, this is great, I love it. I can't wait to see what you have in store.
Yeah, I actually just pulled up the Reddit thread onto screen for people that are watching here live and watching the YouTube version. They'll be able to see that someone actually went through and transcripted Wyatt's response to the question, which is awesome, by the way. The community, for as much as they can be vitriolic and angry, there also are some really cool people out there too that kind of help push some of this content and stuff. So super thankful and happy to see it spread like that. One of the things, of course, that I did want to talk about, and you started to touch on too, was the fact that people are like, well, if you're doing it, we want it now. But again, one of the main things that he was harping on was just, there are issues that happen when we get rid of it. How do you upgrade your legendary gems? What does it mean for Urshi? Because you're taking away one of her main functions, which is upgrading keystones, that choice between do you upgrade a legendary gem, do you upgrade a keystone, etc. So there are definitely going to be some reworkings of the systems that go into the greater rifts, and I think it's one of those moments where you kind of take a step back and realize when you do tweak one thing or you change a little thing over to the left, like you were talking about with the WoW example, you fix one bug and then something goes crazy in a completely different part of the game.
Mm-hmm.
Those are the moments that I think a normal player or people that just are looking at the outcomes and not necessarily the development that it takes to get there want what they want, but they don't, want to give it the time that it probably is going to take to get it figured out properly.
Yeah, and I guess it's just understandable. Most people are going to think from their own point of view,
Mm.
and so people are just going to think from the aspect of a player of this is what I want it now. It's you're never, you can't even really expect people to actually go and think from the development side that things actually take like time and resources. But you hope that you can educate people to actually, take that into consideration.
Right. And yeah,
So,
I think that's probably one of the main reasons why Wyatt, wanted to come on the show too, is just to kind of show that background behind the scenes aspect to a lot of this stuff. The fact that, there are when they say they're talking about it or they say we discussed it, these things are things that are taking time and conversations. And it also makes you realize just how far ahead they're probably working. Like I'm sure there were tons of stuff that he couldn't talk about that they're probably working on for way like a patch or two down the road, or an
mhm.
expansion down the road.
Yeah.
Hopefully.
Yeah, hopefully. That was actually, I guess that's kind of, I don't know if we want to jump, across points in the news and such. That
Sure.
that is becoming more and more of the topic of conversation is, expansion hype, expansion rumors, and things of that nature.
Oh, for sure, man. As the summer gets closer, as Gamescom gets closer, which is the next big media gaming event, and of course E3 too, but normally Diablo and Blizzard don't seem to have as great of a presence there. We have
Hmm.
precedent with Gamescom, at least with Reaper getting its debut over there.
Hmm.
So
They've done it once. That means they'll do it again, right?
it
Right?
has to. That's how those things work.
Yep.
Oh man, but yeah, I think I am hoping, of course, I think the whole community is hoping that we would see some extra development in terms of the expansion and more stuff. And I guess this does bring up a point. One of the things you posted for our news items was, perhaps people being a bit done with seasons, or just the fact that all the development seems based around seasons. And so to me, when I think about that, I wonder why people would be upset just because it's more stuff. But I guess at the same time, if you're not a huge seasonal fan, like if you really are a non seasonal person, you would rather see development time taken on just making the entirety of the game, like more features for the game that aren't just revolving around seasons.
Yeah.
And those to me are expansion type ideas.
Yeah, and that's just one thing that I've noticed within the community itself is that I've been seeing more and more people say they're kind of like, well, this all this new content and stuff is really cool, but I'm giving it a break for the seasons right now. I don't know if that's because season two is just too short, like 2 months wasn't enough time.
Mhm.
I've just noticed, I guess, a little bit of burnout. It's not like burnout of the game itself, but it's just like, I'm just gonna play my non-seasonal character. I'll level up. I'll get the achievements for season three. I'll get the portrait. I'll get the pennant. But then that's it. I'm not gonna go through and do grinding and such. I'm just gonna go and play my non-seasonal character. There's of course, always ever the example. Jake, it just does. He does not play seasons. Period. He's always about pushing his one character forward as much as he possibly can. But yeah, it's something that I've seen quite a few people, just across Twitter and just rumblings on the forums and such that they're just like, Bob, I'm gonna take a little step back from seasons, a little burned out on seasons right now. And so obviously that goes back into some of the points that people have been making, since patch 2.1, that they feel as if there might be too much focus on seasons. And that was something that came up in conversation during the last tavern talk was the developers are very aware of that and they have to kind of balance it. They don't want to make seasons mandatory,
Hmm.
so they want to make sure that they balance what type of content they're putting in. That's why with patch 2.2, they have a bunch of new items that were non-seasonal, that they went through and changed, like focus and restraint and a bunch of other like kind of like build defining items, as well as all the set changes were also non-seasonal, just so that way you don't have to play the season to get the newer updated content, while still giving kind of like a sprinkling of new items into seasons.
Right, and you just touched on one point that I was, ready to pounce on is that I think, especially for season three, because there are so many reworks to the old sets in 2.2, it meant you really didn't need to play seasons. And in fact, you would be a little bit further behind getting to test all the new stuff out if you did play season three, because you could already pre-assemble a Nat set. Of course, like the extra pieces that they were adding in, or the bow, or yeah, the one-handed crossbow wouldn't have its Rain of Vengeance property on it or anything like that yet. But if you're getting ready and assembling, your cloak, your wow, the other pieces, the ring, etc., and getting all that ready, like literally for the day the patch launches, and you start messing around with the new sets and the new builds and stuff, it would kind of put incentive on not participating in seasons. So I think it's almost an exacerbation of the issue because of how 2.2 was in terms of getting those classic sets, major reworks and major powers. It's going to further bolster the fire behind, oh, I don't want to do seasonal play. And I think what, like you said, the developers have to struggle with is that balance, because they did put the reworked Dead Man's Legacy as a seasonal item. So
Mm-hmm.
that's going to entice some DH players to go into seasons because the set might not really feel complete without that quiver. But for other classes, like let's say you're playing the Barb or you're playing the Crusader,
Crusader, yeah, I was just
our
about to say.
yeah our seasonal items look kind of crappy if I'm going to be frank about it.
Yeah.
So there's no real draw there, and so if you are a strength based class and you're looking at your rework, especially for Crusader, because they didn't even have to get a new set assembled. It was literally just Roland's that got reworked, so you already had that. And with Barb's, again, it was more reworks, nothing, and obviously you had to get the Wrath of the Waste collected, but you could do that off season as well too. So the
Mm-hmm.
incentives to go into seasons weren't all that great. So yeah, I think it's tough in terms of trying to push people, into both, enjoying their progress as things go, but also wanting to test out seasons. And I think it might end up being the kind of thing that sees ebb and flow. People, because like you said, season two was so short, maybe they really did get gung ho into it, and then it was kind of that cut off feeling. So now they do want to take that break from it, and maybe they actually have a little bit of longing for those characters that they were starting to invest in and suddenly got cut off from. So that's why non-season becomes attractive.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, it's fair points. It's something I could definitely understand. If it does kind of come into it, I would be interested in seeing that if there was like some sort of poll or metric of like if if maybe we could do it over on BlizzPro, or maybe if Blizzard wants to go through and set it up on their website, just going through, like, why are you not playing season three? Is it because you just don't play seasons? Do you feel burnt out because season two was so short? Is that a negative side effect of having much shorter seasons? Just to kind of like get a feeling from the player base.
Yeah, I would definitely be curious to see. I love we could sit here and talk all day, right? But when
Hmm.
you get the numbers behind it, I feel like that helps to give it some legitimacy one way or the other.
Yeah,
So I would love to see some stuff like that. Hopefully, we can get a survey or something out there.
yeah, definitely.
Um,
And of course, going through and talking about the news wouldn't be complete without, with the lovely opening today.
mhm.
Going through and talking about, and it's something that happened, as we mentioned. The whole blood thief exploit of people going through and gaining hundreds of thousands of blood shards within a day. The kind of, it seemed as if it, like, I guess it didn't actually happen halfway through our interview, but it was when I think it was Datmods or one of the other big streamers went through and did it on stream while we were having the show.
Right.
And as we started getting flooded, our chat was flooded with people going through and complaining about it, trying to get Wyatt's opinion on something that like had literally just broke.
Yeah, it was funny, man. There were like tweets going out, Skype messages. Like it was as if I guess you could almost compare it to this, like all the disaster systems that they put into place, like your emergency broadcast system. So like you get the little thing on your TV. It's like, boo,
Yep.
this is a test of the emergency broad. Like I felt like that was happening. Like my phone was like shaking, and like there was an earthquake outside at the same time. I don't know what was going on.
An Amber Alert got sent out.
Right? Then it's on the highway. Blood thieves, blood thieves. But yeah, man, the community went kind of crazy, and I want to say deservedly so. That's not quite the right word, but I think it was an appropriate reaction to what was going on, just because of the ramifications of what could occur in terms of shortcutting a ton of progress in the season by just commanding that many blood shards. You're basically routing RNG for the next month and a half by going through and being able to gamble to your heart's content. So yes, like we said, that was occurring Wednesday night. By Thursday, it was a widespread news. As you mentioned, Nineball, there were some streamers literally just going through, abusing it, and streaming the entire process. And then by Thursday night, it had been hotfixed and shut down, and we started to see some of the ramifications. And this is something that you wanted to touch on in particular, because it kind of is not a 180, but a furthering of the stance of seasons being a bit more important to the dev team, perhaps.
Yeah, this was one thing that kind of came up, and if anyone remembers season one, it was kind of like it was the season that Blizzard forgot, or season zero. It was like the test thing, because there was a huge experience exploit that people had used in order to gain a couple hundred Paragon levels during season one, and it kind of set a lot of people off, because it's like, well, this is unfair. People got unfair advantage. They took advantage of an exploit, and then we're just everyone else just kind of has to sit there and be okay with it. And then to kind of exacerbate the issue, Blizzard didn't do anything about it. They kind of fixed the exploit, and that was it. No bans, no account actions, no rollbacks, no nothing. And that kind of left a bad taste in a lot of people's mouths. Ours included. As I remember having many conversations. Kind of like this really sucks.
Mm-hmm.
And just it really hurt the legitimacy of season 1, and it just left a lot of people thinking that, well, Blizzard, do you actually care about seasons and the competitiveness aspect of it? And then here we go. We have this blood shard exploit that is going through. Thankfully, the guys over on the dev team, you kind of nailed it within like 24 hours of it going public. And then it's not just only that, but also that Thursday, you had people banned. You had reports coming in of big name streamers, having their accounts, either their accounts banned or rolled back. You have people removed from the leaderboards. All of a sudden, people are going through and saying, hey, I shot up 5 places on the leaderboard. It's like all of a sudden I'm like in the top 10. It's because of people going through and exploiting. I'm sure that it was such like a small time frame that those people that used the exploit, they didn't get where they were in the leaderboards because they used the exploit. I'm sure it helped, but they were there beforehand. But now, because you took advantage of this and because you exploited the game and then you made it public what you were doing, you got banned. You had all of your efforts, removed.
Right.
And it's just like, it's good on you. Thank you, Blizzard, for actually going through and taking a firm stance against this and saying that we will not abide people that go through and do things like these exploits. And they went and Lylera made a post yesterday to have a little bit more transparency with what the actual thought process and what it is that they did. And I know you had it up there on stream.
Yeah, I just put it back up.
Yeah, but what she went through and said is that any accounts that were found to have used the exploit excessively, as well as publicly promoted it, going through and saying, hey, look what I'm doing, or stream it or make posts about it and such, your account's banned. That's it. Everything gone. They're going to have to start over from scratch if they want to actually start over again and play the game legitimately. People that were found to have used it excessively but not publicly promote it, they had their accounts rolled back. So everything that they gained through it, was lost. And this is another one of those kind of little pet peeves of the people that go and do this type of crap, is that they had their accounts rolled back to almost like the beginning of the season because they only snapshot your characters for backups every 4 or 5 days. And this, happened only less than a week into the first season. So they were rolled back, from Paragon 500 to Paragon 40. And but there's people that then went and used every Diablo account has one rollback that you can use in case something bad happens. I accidentally salvage the world's perfect Blade of Prophecy or what have you. People went and contacted support to have their rollback or their single rollback to basically undo their rollback. So they would go through and roll back their character to what it was after their exploit, before their rollback.
Just literally the scum of the earth. If you're...
It's just... Yeah, and luckily people were calling them on their shit, and I'm sure Blizzard would have gone through and noticed, even, had people not gone and reported it. But it's really? Really? You have to go through and cheat that much?
I mean, I guess once you're ensconced in it, right? You might as well go full cheat, right? I mean, it's so ridiculous, man. I can't believe that you get that warning, because they could have just banned you, but they didn't, because they took some leniency on you, so you got the rollback, and then you would rather than start to play legitimately, go and exacerbate the matter further by, let me just continue to subvert the systems that are in place here for me to actually play the game the way I'm supposed to.
Yeah.
It's crazy, man.
Yeah, they didn't mention anything about it in the post yesterday, but I hope those people got permanent bans for what they did.
That would be
Uh,
great.
yeah, and then finally they just mentioned that people that might have exploited the account to a limited degree, you kind of like, oh, let me go and try this. Oh shit, that works. I'm not gonna do it. I'm not
Hmm.
gonna do it any further. Just went through, maybe did it like once or twice. You effectively have been pardoned. Just to kind of go through and say, well, you did it, but then realized it was wrong,
Right.
so you didn't go and do it again. So
Yeah, so there are a couple of things I want to say from that. One, the way to promote, or wow, the way to promote, the way to report hacks and cheats and things is not to go and do it on stream and say, hey guys, look at this crazy stuff I'm doing. People lose Twitch accounts over that. So first of all,
hmm
like if you have any sort of built up subscriber base or anything, I'd be very careful about what you do on stream. But there's an email, hacks@blizzard.com, there's an online web form, and there's a ticket system in order for these things to be reported. So if you find those things, rather than saying, oh, the only way to get attention around it is to just publicly do it over and over until they pay attention, use those methods instead, because it's a quiet way to point the finger at this thing that's terribly wrong with the game, and they are paying attention to those accounts and those systems, so that's how you will get those things fixed. Another thing I did want to point out is that during season one, and this is something I think that this post from Lalera does really well that they didn't do in season one, was addressing the matter at hand at that time.
Oh
Because
yeah.
if you recall, at the end of season one, they did kind of go back and say like people who were found to be botting, they got removed from the leaderboard, so people jumped up a couple of spaces here and there. But it felt weird because that season had already been finished. So if you're looking at the leaderboards and your goal is top 100, but you see that you're like 110 or something, you might be like, oh, okay, no, I'm kind of out of the running or whatever. So you might not push as hard. But let's say the season ends and those botters get removed, all of a sudden you're like, whoa, I'm like 101. I should have pushed because I could have gotten to the top 100. So when it's happening in real time, when the people are being removed from those leaderboards and you're keeping the legitimacy of the season and the competition fresh as it's occurring, then that's definitely the better method of doing it because it keeps people's interest from waning or feeling like it's fruitless.
Yep.
You know?
Yep. And that definitely goes through. And it's like the point that I was making in the show notes was just, it definitely feels more and more like Blizzard's really getting seriousness about actually keeping like the legitimacy or the competitiveness of the seasons true. Going through quickly stomping down exploiters and such, and just kind of wanting to promote that level of competitiveness to get people interested in it and to make it kind of a fair playing field that everyone has the same advantages and disadvantages, and that if you're not going to be a sportsman about it, we're going to do something about it.
For sure. And I think it's in their best interest to do so. Because if you look at season one, A, the length of it was kind of crazy, so that was already working against them. But then B, with all the exploits that kept occurring, it took away a lot of the fun. If you just want to limit it to that, it took away a lot of the fun of the season because it felt like all the progress you were making, if you were looking at leaderboards and trying to be competitive, none of it really felt like it was significant just because you had all those things in the background. And so it actually made the crowd just a little bit rowdier, waiting for either the next season to roll over and be a little bit more legit, or
Mm-hmm.
just an update to the game in general so people could get excited about that. So it makes sense for them to kind of quash all of the negativity in order to keep interest in seasons high. And one of the things I always like to compare this newly testing of the competitiveness in Diablo is over to Hearthstone. And they are really, really aggressive about botters, banning them and disabling their accounts. Also, win traders, like anyone who's doing anything fishy to get to legend rank or do anything to get the top ranks, etc. They get pretty removed or actioned quite frequently, and they're very vocal. The development team and the community team over there are very vocal about making sure that that competitive field stays competitive. So I'm hoping that this is kind of an alignment of Blizzard's efforts on all of that stuff, so that they're going to keep the stance of we are really, really against this stuff, and we're going to take a hard line against it and tell you that we're doing so and show you that.
Mm-hmm.
One thing I did want to ask you, people were saying, why don't you state who did this and make an example of them, publicly? And that's always been something that Blizzard has been against in terms of like name shaming. If you ever notice on the forums, if people step into the forums and say like X person is doing this, I don't know why their account hasn't been banned, etc. Those posts get shut down pretty quickly. So did you agree that there's the way the lawyer did this post, etc., was the right way of doing it, just giving some info but not being very specific, or should they actually have said like this is the person that did this and started it?
I definitely like the way that they handled it this time around, of actually going through and saying, this is what we're doing and this is what's being done, but not naming names. Blizzard has always had the policy that they don't name names. They never talk about specific accounts and the actions that are being, dealt or handed out to them. So I didn't expect them to, about face on that and actually go through and point out people. I don't know if that's potentially for like legal reasons. Even if someone has gone through and broken the terms of use or the end user license agreement or anything like that, there's always kind of like going out and calling someone an exploiter or a hacker. It's like and talking about their accounts being banned and such can always open up something like, oh, I didn't do it and I have proof and blah 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 and all those other types of stuff, and turn it into like just kind of like a mudslinging contest.
Right.
I think it's always the more professional thing to just not specifically say, we did this to X person type thing.
I definitely agree with that too. Yeah, you see it in the legal field too, like you were saying. Some of that stuff is usually kept under wraps until like you would either like have the most unbreakable case and evidence that you would start to attack someone in public and bring true like public light to it, or you would do like some sort of settlement on the side. You see a lot of cases that never see the light of day, never get public attention because you're just not sure you can win that case, and there's a lot of potential for bad PR, bad publicity, etc. That's why a lot of things get settled in the background. And I think in terms of privacy too, it makes sense for that stuff to just not to have name shaming or anything like that. Because even I, again, of course, I'm totally against cheating and stuff like that, but I also believe in second chances and redemption. And I think people, if they want to engage in this stuff, it's wrong. But if you get that chance and your account gets rolled back, you still have an opportunity, especially because it's so early in the season, still make a name for yourself, to still be one of the best players. And hopefully you're not one of the ones who are then saying, I'm going to roll back my rollback, because that's terrible. You're wasting your second chance. But I want to see the level of competition stay high. I want to see players learn from their mistakes and just let's move forward and have a good season on this.
Yeah, definitely. Definitely.
Can we move on to happier things?
Yeah, we can go through and move on to happier things. As I was about to go through and say, if you're watching this live, the charity tickets for the BlizzCon charity dinner are about to go on sale in about 4 minutes. If you're not watching this live, then the charity dinner tickets are probably sold out.
Yep.
Yeah, so just so for any of our listeners here in the stream right now, if you have a lot of money to spare and haven't gotten your BlizzCon ticket yet, you can head over to the BlizzCon main page or Eventbrite in order to go and grab some tickets for the charity dinner.
Yeah, so let's talk about BlizzCon for a little bit, because both of the sessions, of course, one was occurring as we were filming, yeah, because we film, our episode last Wednesday. And then, of course, Saturday morning, they had the 2 sessions for people going through Eventbrite and being able to get their tickets. And it looks like the Wednesday night was a bit of a fiasco in terms of Eventbrite, kicking people out of the waiting room or just not working as it was supposed to.
It was similar issues that happened last year.
And what exactly were the details of that, if you can recall?
It's like, Eventbrite is a really, really huge organization, or I guess a really huge back end, and you would think that they've dealt with things of this size and caliber previously, but they seem to have more issues than Blizzard's own in-house BlizzCon ticket sale that they've had in previous years. Because you would have people go through, they're waiting in line, and then they get kicked out and saying, oh, all BlizzCon tickets are sold out. While other people are still waiting, they don't get kicked out, and then after other people have and said BlizzCon tickets are sold out, they then get in and are able to purchase their tickets, because it's like the system is tripping over itself, where
Yeah.
people are actually, they get in, they have their 3 tickets queued up, but then either they exit or they've walked away from their computer or they time out for whatever reason, or people get disconnected, but it still keeps them in the queue. And so it was going on for about 30 minutes before it actually finally sold out. Because it kept, dropping, the shopping carts and things like that, and then putting tickets back into the system, or people not purchasing it and what have you. But it wasn't cohesive. So
Right.
people that were waiting in line, this happened last year when I bought BlizzCon tickets through Eventbrite. Is I was sitting there. There's a whole bunch of us went through to get tickets in my WoW guild, and I was one of the first people to go in and get tickets. I got mine without incident, but then someone else got kicked out and said, the BlizzCon tickets are sold out. And then a minute later, another person that was there got in and was able to purchase tickets. The person that originally gotten kicked out refreshed their screen, went back in, and then like 10 minutes later was able to go in and get tickets before someone else that had been waiting the entire time.
Yeah.
It was so screwed up. It
Yeah.
was like, I have no idea. I guess this works better for Blizzard on whatever level, but definitely my experience with the Eventbrite interface was much worse than what purchasing the BlizzCon tickets through the Blizzard store the previous 2 years had been. There's many years ago, I think it was like the 2008 one was the huge fiasco, and everyone got the little worker bot and the Murloc of Doom. But ever since then, it was a nice streamed process. There weren't any hiccups or problems. Well, obviously there were a couple, but it was just, you refresh the page, you purchase your tickets, it puts you in line, you see where you are in line, and then you waited, and once tickets were sold out, they were sold out, and that was it.
Right. Yeah, I wonder if it's one of those issues where it's like Blizzard themselves just had so much going on in the background that we couldn't see, that they wanted to kind of farm that out to a third party so their experience is better, but it ends up hurting the user experience, because that's really what it seems like has been occurring in terms of people just being really frustrated with it. So much vitriol, speaking of that word, popping up on Twitter, like right after the show finished last night, or not last night, Wednesday night. I went on and just kind of saw the chatter, and people were just obscenely upset, etc. But at the same time, it looks like the issues, for whatever reason, were much cleaner on Saturday, and so a lot of those people that got locked out or didn't get what they wanted on Wednesday were able to go through and purchase on Saturday. So hopefully in future, if they do use Eventbrite again, yeah, I feel like we said the exact same thing last year. Hopefully, if they do them in the future, they will learn from this and correct their mistakes. But
Yeah. Though, sadly, this is one of those things that, like, if Blizzard has a contract with Eventbrite for going through and them doing their ticket sales for X number of years, which isn't, it's just kind of like par for the course for larger organizations in order to get a better discount and deal for the ticket processing.
mm-hmm.
They fortunately they don't have a lot of say in how Eventbrite does their business. So it's not a lot that they can do about it.
Right, that's true. I kind of locked into a crappy deal.
Yeah.
Oh boy, we will see. Another thing that is newsworthy is that we actually have here at BlizzPro a code that people can use at the Blizzard Gear store, which
Mm-hmm.
is undergoing some maintenance, I believe, relatively soon, because they're going to be adding new items.
It is now shut down and won't be back until May 6th.
Oh, so I guess save the code. It's BlizzPro, so just BLIZZPRO. You'll get
Mm-hmm.
10% off when this stuff comes back. But you're going to want to get in there, because on screen right now you'll be able to see there's going to be a new Goblin bank that you can stash all your gold and sweet loot into.
Yep, and it's pretty awesome. They have it up on ThinkGeek right now, and when you put the coins in, it will make noises.
That is so awesome.
Yeah, so it's a nice like little Diablo themed thing. You can get a piggy bank, shaped or goblin shaped piggy bank. Yeah.
Just in
Now,
case those sounds didn't haunt your dreams enough already.
yeah, like the little laughter and such. Now that would be something that would be like scary. You know, you're going through and you're falling asleep, and then all of a sudden it started laughing at you.
Like those Furbies. You remember Furbies? They would just turn on in the middle of the night.
Yes.
Oh my
Yes.
god. And just gibberish at you.
Uh-huh.
And I like that Mikey's saying goblins are notorious for dropping all their gold, so it seems like a terrible investment.
I like it.
Well, no one said you wanted to maintain all your gold, but at least you can store it in a place for a temporary time until someone comes and smashes your goblin to pieces.
Yeah.
Oh man.
That would be one thing for sure. You know, just going through, walking into someone's place, seeing the treasure goblin, just hitting it, and just smash the hell out of the thing and take all the money and be like, "What are you doing?" It's like, I killed it.
He was gonna escape. I don't know what you want.
Self drops, man. This loot belongs to me.
Oh man. Actually, a quick aside that reminds me. I have a friend at work who actually plays Blizzard games, which is really cool. And he was asking me about some of the seasonal stuff that I've been doing and whatnot. And I was telling him about the Speed Racer conquest, and he was like, "Oh man, like, so do you guys just like decide that someone's gonna be the person to pick up all the gear on the way, and then you split it up when you get finished?" And I was like, "No, man, there's no shared gear anymore. Like, it's all individual drops." He was like, "What?" Because he hadn't played since D2, so it's just funny some of the things that we now take completely for granted. Are kind of mind blowing if you haven't been in the IP for a few years now.
Yeah.
So I just thought that was a funny thing there. But I also told him, like, "What, dude? No one's stopping for gear. It's Speed Racer. Come on.
Yeah.
Got to go fast."
Yeah, I remember when we were going through and doing it season 1, I just let you know in the beginning, if legendary gloves drop, I am going back for them.
That's right.
Yeah.
Because the Tasker and Theo is more important.
They will forever have a special place in my heart.
It's funny, even now in the clan, when people find them, they say, "Oh yeah, 9-ball, hey, yeah."
It'll have a lasting impression for years to come.
Absolutely. And mentioning the clan, we actually have recruited more people. It seems like the clan is really just a feeder for writers for the BlizzPro site.
Yes.
So if you join the clan, plan to write for the site at some point. But all jokes aside, we picked up Jeff, 3 Days JPT. He's going to be writing some exciting builds on Fridays, I think was what we decided, for you guys to go and check out and possibly use on your own characters. So really excited to get him rolling with his stuff. You'll be seeing the first one, which is a monk build, this coming Friday. And he's also going to, there's a little portion at the bottom there where he's taking submissions too. So if you guys ever, especially now in Season 3, that people are getting geared up and starting to find all sorts of unique and interesting items, if you guys come up with some crazy build that you think is just awesome and needs a highlight, of course submit it to like Play Your Way Thursday, but submit it to us too, and then we can get multiple avenues of promoting that stuff, which should be fun.
Oh yeah, definitely. Looking forward to it. And this, of course, comes in, shortly after we just picked up Lieutenant Lunatic, who we mentioned before, who's
That's right.
going in. He's writing Transmog Tuesdays, which if you want to, you can go through and submit those in as well. Have your transmog gone and featured, on Tuesdays over on Diablo.blizzpro.com.
Yes,
he's always looking for more submissions.
Yes, and there have been some very pretty ones already. I know Nevik had his monk, and Lala had her monk. A lot of people seem to like monks, transmogging monks for whatever reason.
Yeah, I don't know. They're pretty cool. They're pretty cool.
I mean, they're no crusader though.
Yep, and you can send those over to ltlunatic@blizzpro.com if you want your submission considered in order to make it in for next week.
Absolutely. All right. Did you want to move into talking about sending things in? Do you want to move over to feedback? We have some items that we have been sent. News items, postings, and also items, of course.
Yeah, sure. Let's go through and let's hit it up.
All right. I'm excited. We didn't get to touch as many of these last episode, of course, because we just wanted to absorb all the goodness of Wyatt. So we do have a few from last week, but also a bunch of new ones from you guys getting your seasonal play on. So I'm going to take this first one coming from Landshark, who we haven't heard from in quite some time.
It has been a while.
Right? Yeah, she let us know that there are a couple of things going on with her, but we're happy to hear from you again. And her intro, which I can't pretend that this is not here, so this is Wes Off Hale, I think is how you say that. There is actually a phonetic pronunciation guide that she put, and I'm pretty sure I still butchered it. But it's Old English for hello, gentlemen, which is the closest she could find to sup, fellas. Points for credit there for sure. Hard work. So let's see. She said she listened to last week's episode and remembered us discussing the multi-elemental builds with the convention of the elements becoming a thing in the future, and just talking about the issues with elemental damage and it's the single elemental damage effects and how that kind of is exacerbating people really focusing their builds on just certain runes and certain skills, etc. So she said in season 3 she's been rolling a wizard. And she wanted to use the updated Tal Rasha set, of course, because it's just awesome and powerful. And she's been really commending the developers for doing a fantastic job of encouraging, at least for wizards, elemental diversity for their builds. Just because, obviously, for those who are unfamiliar, Tal Rasha's works where if you have multiple elements in your skills and in your build, then you can proc multiple meteors to drop from the sky based on that damage, or based on that element. So, you use your arcane skill and arcane meteor drops. You use your fire skill, fire meteor drops, and round it goes. So you can output some crazy damage. People are saying they get to Rift Guardians and, you do your 4 elements and 4 meteors drop, and the Rift Guardians cease to exist. Like, it's crazy damage output, billion crits, etc. So it's a really cool set. It's working out very well. And she just wanted to commend it for kind of putting multi-elemental stuff on the board again. She said she hasn't gotten the Convention of the Elements yet, but she was hoping that it should fit into her build. And she's thinking that it's a nice switch up for providing, hopefully for the other classes, the opportunity to use multiple elements. And I picked this one in particular because I wanted to talk about my adventures on the Barb. And I actually do use, instead of a Unity, because I'm using Striding Giant, which is the rune on Wrath of the Berserker, which takes 50% damage reduction. So essentially taking that Unity effect and taking the Unity off, putting it onto the skill, and then opening that ring slot up. So I'm using Convention of the Elements there. And because I'm using a cold rune for Rend, which is Mutilate, which does like a little 10% damage from all sources, so helps to buff up Call of the Ancients a little bit. That's a cold skill, but then the rest of the build is mostly physical, so I'm actually benefiting from 2 parts of the ring's rotation of the 4 elements for Barbs. And it's been kind of cool because I don't feel as bad about using that cold rune because it's such a good utility on that rune. And saying, oh, well, I'm going to miss out on my physical damage from this. So it's kind of nice to have that section because it's actually cold and then physical in terms of the rotation. So there's this nice 8-second portion where it's just crazy increased damage. And then we go back to normal for the fire and the lightning portions. So I'm liking it.
Moving on next, we have email here from, and he even goes through and mentions this, for you, there we go, we got it, nailed it. He goes through and says, "Sup, fellas," or "Y'all gasten" in Dutch, which I know I butchered that one because I've forgotten all Dutch. But he's a regular viewer of the show, but he normally catches it on YouTube since it's broadcast in the middle of the night. He lives in Belgium, so it is currently what? Like 6 hours. It is either going to be 3 or 4 o'clock in the morning over there for him right now, depending upon what part of Belgium he's in. The land of beer, chocolate, and French fries, and you can get all 3 of those as a meal when you're in the Benelux. It's very good. But he's been watching the show since episode 1, and he knows that he has an unpronounceable name, but wants us to try anyways. So there you have it. And let's see. He sent in a couple of questions. He focuses a lot on he's playing a Tal Rasha's wizard. So
how about that?
Sorry if we don't go through and answer this to the best of our abilities, but it seems fitting following up one Tal Rasha question with another. His first one is just going through and saying that being just an int class, he has insane all resistances, and with a couple of his the way that his gear has gone through and worked is that his arcane, cold, and fire, as well as lightning, are all over 2,500. Some are even over 3,000 resistance. He uses unwavering will, and that then increases those resistances even further. Once he's standing still for a second and a half. Then on top of that, running energy armor, prismatic armor. And he just wants to know that outside of those, if he say he gets hit with poison or physical attack, will it calculate like an average damage reduction? Does my arcane resistance help me in any way, shape, or form? The answer is no.
Nope.
No. Sadly, no. That yeah, if like say your physical or poison resistance are much lower, they just go off of their own resistance. Your other resistances don't factor into that any way, shape, or form unless you're running a monk.
Right.
So they get any type of secondary benefit from the secondary resists. So it might be something that you want to look at with maybe changing some stuff around with your gear, or potentially using what's the poison amulet?
Mars Kaleidoscope.
Mars Kaleidoscope. If you're not using the Tal Rasha's amulet, using a Mars Kaleidoscope or like a Mutilation Guard for your physical resistance.
Yeah, and that's why you see a lot of people who talk about secondary fixes on gear, wanting to have a nice panoply of the single elements. So you have your fire that's gonna just so happen to roll on your gloves, and then you might see on your offhand, oh, there's your lightning. So you kind of want it to be touching one of each single element to spread it out.
Yeah, it really helps because you have so many slots, particularly gloves, helm, neck, rings, and bracers. You're generally not going to have room for all resist on, so you can beautifully spread it across all the secondary resists. If you happen to be so lucky to get a roll like that, you're not going to use your one reroll to reroll your secondary resist on those pieces of gear. But if you do end up getting something that's perfectly rolled from the beginning, you can always roll that secondary resist in order to kind of give you a little bit more from your secondary stat. I don't know if you have these images to put up on screen, but their second question was just there. I'm going to do the second and the third one. It's because they sent in some screenshots of a Serpent Sparker, an Ancient Thunder Fury, and a Furnace, and they wanted to know which ones are better. Because they wanted to know which one would be better, since they do use Mammoth Hydra with the Serpent Sparker and the Ancient Thunder Fury. But then they also asked another question about their Furnace. And I guess to kind of answer your second, and third question at the same time, the Furnace is your best option. Since you're going through and playing the Tal Rashas, the Mammoth Hydra is going to be doing a lot of damage, but it's not going to be enough to compensate for the difference in DPS between your Serpent Sparker and your Furnace, and definitely is not going to be able to compete with that the legendary affix on the Furnace itself. That is going to be kind of like your best shot, is going to be going through that, especially with the way that Tal Rasha's works. You're just going to be getting a lot more from using that two-hander than you would the one-handers.
Right, and the only complication would be also factoring in an offhand. If you're using
exactly if that will break your set or not if you can't use Tal Rasha's offhand.
Exactly, yeah. So it's the power of the Furnace is surely to be noted in its legendary affix. So that is just so much extra damage to the monsters that we spend the most time on traditionally. So it's going to be really hard to beat that, and I think Nineball's pretty much right on the mark here with it's an interesting conversation between the two one-handers, because it's kind of similar to, I think we had a conversation about an ancient, it might have been an ancient, what's the fire one? I forget.
It was
I think
it was an ancient Maximus versus the
incense torch.
The torch of the Grand Temple.
Yeah. And so that's that's an instance where it's this legendary power is crazy powerful, but will it compete with just the raw damage and of course the fire, the 20% additional damage to fire too. There are a couple of things to consider there. But when you're looking at a Furnace, man, it's tough to beat the Wiz, right? It's hard to beat a Furnace outright, so.
Yeah. There are some builds that might be might prefer using the one hander over others and such. But right now, it's kind of like for what you're going through and doing, I would consider that your best option.
You know.
And just a couple ones. They had a question: is the natural ring supposed to work on your follower? Yeah.
Yep.
Yep. Yep. 110%. It is a very powerful ring. It's something we actually talked about a little bit on the last episode. That they're happy to see that going and getting some use. So it's a lot of fun on that aspect.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Yep. And they also just wanted to know if we had any advice on how to attack the leaderboards. And also ask, how do you do it? How do you plan for it? And, things of that nature. How do you go back, or how do you go about actually getting into the top or planning for the top?
Oh boy, could write a book, man. Do you have some time? I guess keeping it short, I think it's important to be as familiar with your class as you possibly can. So you need to know everything that you're capable of. And that means skills down to runes that no one uses, all the cookie cutters, exactly what the powers of your represent. Because what's really going to happen is that at some point the meta will settle down and we're going to determine what the best builds are, in quotes. And you need to be ready to attack that, but not also that. You also need to be able to innovate on that, because the people who make the smallest tweaks, who kind of get ahead of the game in terms of like, oh, I'm noticing that because they changed density in the greater rifts, this skill is now going to be way more useful with this combination of gear than what the cookie cutter status quo is right now. And that's how you honestly get ahead. That's how you get to the top. Assuming all of that stuff is already figured out, I think just min-maxing as hard as you possibly can. It's going to be the issue of at some point you will need to fish if you get to that top point, and it's separating one greater rift from you in the top 10 or something. You're probably just going to need a good rift in order to have it happen if everything else is perfect. But I think in terms of making a plan, you just need to know like what your build is. And this is like kind of counter to the advice we usually give in terms of like letting the drops determine what you're going to use and build, because it's when you're talking about leaderboards, like it's a completely different world in terms of needing your gear to be so good, so perfect, and needing your play style. It comes down to execution mattering a lot. It comes down to your strategy in terms of knowing which mobs give more EXP, which ones you can kind of skip or leave to the side, and so many different things. So it's a lot of variables that we can't like specifically state like this is what you should do. But there are definitely, I think if you just pay attention to what's happening when you're inside greater rifts and noticing what benefits you and what kind of slows your progress, that's worth keeping an eye on as well.
Mm-hmm.
Did you have anything else that you want to throw in there too, or?
No, it's because I guess the past couple of seasons I know that I've just not had the time in order to actually go and make real pushes towards the leaderboard. So it's not really something I've kind of thought or spent a lot of time, doing and such. But I kind of agree with everything that it is that you have to say.
Yeah. Yep. And yeah, being able, Mikey's pointing out in chat too that there's a discipline that's needed for skipping stuff. It's tough because a lot of people, you see the monsters on screen, you're like, those are the monsters being put in front of me, I have to kill them. But not everything is created equal inside of a greater rift. So there are actually instances where you might just get a bad population. And when I say population, I mean the monsters that spawn together on that level of the greater rift. And so moving forward actually to like greater rift level 2 or 3 could result in a much better time. Even though you're skipping enemies, you're like, oh, I'm losing time. You could make it all up in the next level of that rift if it's all just like red zombies or cuddle bears or all sorts of stuff like that.
Yeah, when you get the rifts that are full of nothing but like bees and shadow demons, it's like you can go through and you can clear everything on like the Fields of Misery or the Desolate Sands maps, and you only walk away with 23% of the map completed just because the enemies themselves are worthless, even though you slaughtered thousands.
Absolutely. And that's actually, I mean, this might be getting a little off topic, but that's something I noticed when we were chatting with Wyatt. People were talking about in the Greater Rift section. We're just saying, like, why is there such a disparity between monster types and the experience that they grant? And I remember at one point they did say they were going to make a pass on what gave experience and what gave more experience, less experience based on the HP, based on the difficulty. I'm not sure that ever went fully forward. I know there were some adjustments that I noticed, but I'm not sure it ever went like full-fledged. But I think there definitely could be a case for, mobs that are just notoriously tough to track down. Like they're harder to hit, or they do like terrible affixes, or just Act 5 mobs in general. Can we just say that? Should be worth more, I think.
Yeah.
Relative to the rest of the monsters in the pool. Just because when you do get, I think they did tone it down in terms of changing the difficulty of a lot of the mobs that were in Act 5 and stuff. But even still, just because they do more things than other mobs do, they should be worth more. And maybe that means even, I hate to say it, but like a nerf to like the zombies and the things of Act 1 and stuff, because they are so easy.
Yeah, the zombies are definitely one of those ones where it's like they're worth, quite a bit, and they spawn in huge packs.
Mm-hmm.
It's because a lot of the times you'll notice the spawn behaviors of the certain enemies that, it's like the zombies in particular. It seems that they're always in hordes.
Mm-hmm.
You don't come across just like two zombies, like you might when you come across like an executioner or an unburied.
Exactly. Yeah, and I think that, people complain about fishing and having to find like the perfect Greater Rift and stuff, and I don't think we'll see that behavior get dissuaded or cut down on until we see a bit more equity and a bit more parity between all the different mobs and just the experience that's granted per the difficulty to kill them.
Yeah, that's definitely something. I've noticed, I guess, I've noticed more nerfs to Act 4 mobs than I have Act 5. Because the Act 4 were the Act 4 mobs were the ones that like had like a lot of different things going on. The angels had elemental shields. The terror demons started off. They'd always start off invisible. The armored destroyers would crash down from off screen. It had all these like different little things that kind of made them difficult to deal with. Whereas the Act 5 mobs, they just hurt.
Truth.
Is they'd have a lot of damage. The Exarchs have those little lightning rings, so in addition to everything pounding on you, there's 5 of them sitting off screen that are just constantly dropping like little mini thunderstorms down on top of you. That's what kind of makes them a pain.
For sure. Yeah.
There's more just the obscene damage that a lot of them do, more so than like any like secondary effects that they do.
It's definitely a strong case there for sure. There's even I forget what those ones. I think it's like enraged phantasms or something. Like they're those ghost ones that kind of fly around and then they become like a much crazier version of themselves and they put their hands together and shoot lightning at you. Mm-hmm. Those ones hit like friggin' trucks. They hit basically like as hard as the new Orlash lightning does.
Oh yeah.
And those can shred you.
I think that was actually what I lost my Demon Hunter to.
Mm.
But it wasn't the elite packs. It was I have to go back and look at the screenshot. But it's like I'm getting hit by multiples of those guys shooting the lightning beams while I'm held down on the walls.
It's just nuts, man. So yeah, I think that when we have stories like this and we talk about some of the most memorable fights are against those Act 5 mobs that just do crazy stuff to you. It seems to build a further case in terms of them being worth a bit more. Otherwise, they're just going to get skipped or not be worth the battle.
Yeah, I think those ones, that lightning mob is probably the only one that kind of like really needs like a damage decrease from what I've seen so far. But other than that, I guess it's just if they were worth more, it would balance itself out.
Mm-hmm. I would agree.
Yeah, Exorcist is what the chat is saying.
Exactly.
Yep.
All right, I'm going to move on to the next piece of feedback here. It's actually from our good friend Thibbledorf, who's made his return this season to Diablo. I'm happy to see him back in the chat and now here in the feedback section. He's talking about our discussion on the Invoker set, which was one of the very last things we talked about in episode 46. And he wanted to just kind of talk about what would the development of that set as we were discussing it and some of his ideas for it as well. He says that he actually based his character off of Thibbledorf Point from the R.A. Salvatore Drizzt series. I may be murdering that. But he's a Dwarven battle rager, and he uses spiked armor in his helm to grapple and impale enemies and stuff. And that's how he sees the Invoker set working out. He says you should be tough enough to be reckless. Having those spikes in close battle, won't be as good if you don't want to stay in close battle and you don't feel tough enough to take the hits as you're putting the hits out with the thorns. So he says something that is also iconic in Thorns is that you're bleeding. You're going through the brambles or the briars and you're just getting more and more cuts on you. So he thinks that you could kind of work that effect in. And actually, when I read this, I was thinking like, oh yeah, there's that affix in the game where it's like a 30% chance to bleed for like whatever weapon percent damage, and it's pretty useless, even though they buffed it up already because it used to be flat damage. Yeah. And now it's based off weapon percent, but this could be another way to really kick that into overdrive if it becomes part of the set. But his set that he puts together, he changes it to a 6-piece, and he says something you could do is add more pieces or combine it with the Demon Hide set. So 2-piece would be on hit, you have a 5% chance to make an enemy cower in fear for 2 seconds, and enemies within 15 meters of you deal 15% less damage, so that's kind of getting that toughness part up. For the 4-piece is no retreat, no surrender. Each time that you're hit with elemental damage, you increase your resistance to that element by 5% for 5 seconds, and each hit resets the duration of the resistance to a maximum 40% increase to that resistance. So you can basically get up to 40% against all, a 40% increase against all elements as they keep using them against you. And then 6-piece is each hit causes enemies to take a 100% weapon damage dot. It ticks once per second for 5 seconds. Applying another hit resets the dot duration and doubles the weapon damage to a maximum of 3,200%. So it almost sounds a little bit like the scaling of the Firebird dot in a way. But you're actively making it go up by attacking and things like that. And he says the numbers are just there for numbers, and obviously it would need to be worked out and stuff. But it seems like an interesting approach to it. A bit passive, a bit active.
Yeah, I kind of like it. I definitely like it. And that also just kind of goes through and makes me think, in D2, the Monster Bleed affix was 100% necessary for killing things like the Uber Diablo and Uber Tristram and such, because monsters would heal if they weren't taking damage. So actually going and applying, like the Monster Bleed effect to them would prevent them from healing. Even though the damage itself was, more or less, it was kind of like moot. Any damage that the bleed did, was unimportant. But it was the fact that it prevented them from healing made it so that way you could back off for a little bit in order to come back in and do damage if you had to quaff some potions and wait for your health to regain.
Right, yeah, I do remember that. That's funny. So yeah, I guess it's always been kind of one of those underpowered things. I mean, I think the place that we see the dots work out best are in Rend, because they buffed the crap out of Rend, but also because it's buffed up now by a set piece bonus. And also, like the Raycor dot, the Firebird's dot, all these dots are ones that are buffed up by sets. And so this seems to kind of go in line with that as well, as, Bleed on its own just doesn't seem super powerful. But when you start to play up the fantasy of it with the Invoker set, and also tie extra power into it because you're putting it on a set, and I think it could start to work out that way. So it could be cool to incorporate it into this thematically, as well as leveraging that stat.
Yeah. I guess in order to go through, if you wanted to make like a change to it, instead of the bleed being based on weapon damage, have it be based on thorns damage to kind of go with that thorns flavor, but still have it scaling. That would be kind of cool.
I actually like that too. Yeah. So then it's completely tied into you wanting to stack up more thorns. You looking to leverage that as much as possible. Yeah.
Yep.
Dig it.
Yeah. Our next question comes in from Blizz Junkie. He had 2 questions. His first, he knows that back in the day, black damage was the best thing to get. So it was just the base pure damage, not having like a cold affix or anything like that was the best to get on Echoing Fury or any other weapon in D3 vanilla. And he wanted us to know, does that still hold true? Does it actually matter anymore? And the question for almost everybody is no. It doesn't actually matter. The actual base damage of your weapon doesn't actually matter. The only thing that it does is elemental exposure, a passive that you have from wizards, that the actual elemental type of your weapon will contribute to giving you a stack of the elemental exposure. So
Mm-hmm.
if you get an element weapon with something different from what it is that you're using on your bars, you can always just get that kind of free stack from it. So that's the only thing in the game right now that actually cares about what the elemental effects of your weapon damage is. The whole concept of black damage and such from D3 vanilla has at this point more or less been completely forgotten. Um, and this might actually matter to you because from his next question, he's going and asking, "Does our mirror images broken in Reaper of Souls?" He wants to know, are they supposed to act like the shadow clones that are created by the Haunt of Oxo? Because they don't seem to be really casting that spells. And that one is they should. Mirror image is supposed to work. They do only have like 50% of your health, and they only share a portion of your resistances, so they will die very quickly. But they do have their own AI, and they should cast spells. They only do like 10% of your damage, but you should see them casting spells once they get within range of an enemy.
Mm-hmm. I think too. I think what I have just based on observation, so this is not based on facts or hard evidence or anything like that. It seems like the clones from the Haunt of Vaxxor are just more aggressive in general, and it seems like as far as I think I remember I talked to Jash about this once, but the mirror images they seem to just do less in terms of either attack speed or all those things. I don't know. They just don't seem to act as frequently as the ones from the shadow clones do from the Haunt of Access. So maybe that's something that could be buffed up a little bit.
Yeah, and also if you're using them in the thick of things, they do taunt. So they will instantly gain the attention of the enemies and die very quickly.
Mm-hmm. This is
So,
true.
hmm
Let's see. Oh, so there was another feedback question that came in from Dan, and he was just asking about opinion on seasons not being on console. The PS4, Xbox One, etc.
hmm
Um, the thing is, and he brings it up too, is that there are hacks and leaderboards would kind of be subverted with hacks because people just take crazy weapons and go and defeat Greater Rift 100 instantly, etc. Um, so he's wondering if it could be put in just for the people that want it because there's that starting from scratch feeling that comes with seasons, and that's something that we talk about frequently. It's nice to get that reset. And he says he's got his accounts filled up with characters that can do Greater Rift 40, and they're all buffed up, and they have the achievements and all sorts of stuff. So he just kind of wishes he could get that reset without like deleting an account or starting a brand new one or something like that. Um, he says it's possible that he could do that, but he just would rather have the seasonal stuff. And this originally was something that he also wanted to have Wyatt comment on, but again, we didn't get to every comment or every feedback question during that segment. But yeah, I mean, I do feel for the console players, and I understand why Blizzard doesn't want to promote seasons on that platform just because
hmm
they wanted to provide that offline option, and when they do so, it does open up the environment to people just destroying it, basically putting in whatever they want.
Pretty much. And this is a question that the devs have actually directly answered a couple of times in the past, and the answer directly is it's because of the hacks. There will never be seasons on consoles because they can't stop people from going through and hacking the game, and so there's just no legitimacy to having a season. The seasonal items have been added into consoles, but you're never actually going to have a season or a leaderboard or anything like that.
Hmm. Yeah, I mean, it is what it
If
is.
Yeah, I guess if you want to play a season, make a backup of your character, then delete it, start over. I don't know.
Yes, yeah.
I don't. I'm not even sure if you can do that. You know?
Well, it's a console; you can do anything, right?
Yeah, true. I'm sure there's a hack for that.
Yep.
And I guess our final question is going to come in from Ben. And he just wanted to know, how does XP with pets and followers work? Could he potentially create a pet focused build and follow them around the Rift on one monitor while watching Netflix on the other?
I like this
Yeah.
already.
Will he? Does it reduce his XP gain or anything like that? And the answer to that one is no. It doesn't reduce the amount of XP. There are quite a few pet centric witch doctor builds out there that more or less is just going and following around your pets as they go through and do damage. That isn't to say that you will do better by having active input in order to go through and support your pets, especially with the new Zunimasa set. But yeah, you can fully gain 100% of your XP by just letting your pets kill things.
Yeah, buddy. We're always looking for those Netflix builds. That's what I'm talking about. There's anything that's super lazy, so you can just like zone out and watch something else while still playing your favorite game. But no, that's definitely spot on in terms of there are builds. I can even think of speed farming builds like for Crusaders. People have put together builds that focus primarily on buffing up the damage of your phalanx bowmen, and you just ride around on the horse and they just shoot everything because they still shoot while you ride. And you just literally let them kill everything. They have 100% uptime, and you're going around looting chests. So you kind of have to pay attention to loot the chest, but then you go back to your episode of Friends. So, it all works out. But the one caveat we should mention is that any experience boosts that you put on your followers, let's say you have a Hellfire Ring or a Leoric Signet, Leoric's is 30%, you only gain 20% of that benefit. So for the Leoric Signet, you'd be getting 6% extra experience on your character itself. So any of the bonuses that they get nerfed down a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, man, Netflix builds, get them working.
Got alone. You could also catch up on past episodes.
Oh,
of the show.
Of the Westmarch Workshop. Yeah. How about that?
We're not on Netflix yet.
But working on it.
Working on it. Definitely working on it.
As soon as we get syndication. All right. Well, that's it. Yeah, we went through the entire feedback section, which I think is a first. So I'm proud of us. Little golf clap. Mm-hmm. And that leaves us with items of the week, and we finally got some really juicy ones.
Yep.
I'm stoked for this, man. We're going to start off with the most boring item that was submitted, which of course is an ancient furnace, and you're like, what? Are you crazy?
Yeah.
But yeah, man, there's all sorts of awesome items in this patch, so I'm really looking forward to the stuff that you guys find and submit. And I should state here, if you want to submit anything to contribute to either of these sections, either feedback or items of the week, please do so by sending an email to westmarchworkshop@blizzpro.com. You can also send a tweet if you want. We do have a couple of items here that were submitted from tweets, and that's going to be the WM Workshop. But yeah, just get at us, send things in. We love to look at them. We love to talk about them. First up here is, of course, like I said, an ancient furnace, and this one was submitted by Michael, and it's a beauty. He says, there was a little bit more in the base damage that he could get, but he thinks this is pretty darn good. So it's got 4,440.2 DPS, benefiting from a rerolled 10% damage affix, 1,281 strength. It does have increased attack speed on here, so that's what's buffing it up a little bit. It's got a 7% increased attack speed, and monster experience on the secondary, and the 42% for the legendary affix against the damage for elites. And of course, he used that Happy Meal to get a sidekick on there.
Yep. You can never say no to a well-rolled furnace.
Never, ever. It's a standing rule. If you submit an ancient furnace and it's beautiful, it will be actually, if it's whatever.
If you send in an ancient furnace, it probably just is beautiful.
That's right. Absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
Up next is one of our favorite contributors, Lala, who's a very staunch and what's the word I'm looking for? Crazy player of Diablo. She stays up just as late as I do, and I consider myself to be crazy for the hours I put into this game, so she is right there on that platform with me. But this is the first Blade of Prophecy that she has ever found, and of course it rolled Ancient. And to that, I was just like, go jump off a bridge. I hate you. And she's like, well, I don't know why you had so much trouble with it. It's so easy to find these. I was just...
Yep.
Oh man, but yeah, so she she discovered this guy. It's 3,791 DPS. The only thing that was re-rolled was another stat into a socket because she said once she gets a Ramalama Ding Dong to throw on there, she'll then re-roll the socket off for the 10% affix. And then this will just be crazy good. It's got 1,351 strength, and it rolled a really high CDR. It rolled 9% on that, and that's always important for the Econ builds.
Yep.
And then the secondary is just some life after kill, which is also not bad too, since a lot of the killing for that set is going to be sweeping up the trash mobs with vacuum. So as long as you can keep your paper cuts down by getting that extra life after kill, it's pretty good.
Yep. No, and also it's just like one of those ones utilizing a good secondary slot is always helpful.
Absolutely.
Yep. Though of course it's I guess it would be going through and rolling the damage percentage after if she ever actually does go through and rolls a Happy Meal onto it.
Mm-hmm. For sure, for sure.
Yeah. Was she even playing a Crusader? I thought she was doing...
She did. She rolled one for Season 3. Yeah, it's her alt.
Oh, wow.
Yep.
That's definitely a nice thing to start off a brand new Crusader with, I must say.
Not too shabby.
Uh-huh.
And then I figured I had one item that made me jealous, so I'd get one item that made you jealous. And that's going to be a Nat Slayer. And this is the one that was submitted via Twitter. Came in from Scanline75, who is a friend of the show. He is also a member of the clan as well, so thank you for submitting this one in here, good friend. It's an Ancient Natalia's Slayer with a whole bunch of stuff going for it. It's already got an innate 10% damage affix, and it's 3,403.8 DPS, by the way. It's one-handed crossbow. 830 dexterity. It's got increased hatred regeneration by 1.35 per second. And the unfortunate part is that the Rain of Vengeance damage rolled at its lowest percent, which is 20%. But still a thing of beauty. He hasn't touched it yet, so he could roll up the base damage, I think, if he wanted to. I don't, because you want increased hatred regen, right?
It actually, the best thing that you would do for this item is to reroll the hatred regen and the cooldown reduction, because obviously you're going to be using the Nat Slayer for the Natalia's build. And the biggest thing for that is cooldown reduction, is your greatest damage increase.
Gotcha.
Mm-hmm. So even though, obviously it could have rolled better on a couple of the stats, it still is a marvelous item that rolled really well. And you can still go through, get cooldown reduction, and, Ramalodni's for a socket on it. Yeah. It is... I just found an Ancient Nat Slayer yesterday, and this one is better than it. So one of my few happy moments from yesterday, you go through and make that.
So now your day is completely ruined.
Yep. Which I will go through. I didn't mention this in the story when I lost my 2 hardcore characters. I did not lose my Ancient Nat Slayer. So at least that's the one thing to go through and have that. I have an Ancient Nat Slayer waiting for me once I actually get the rest of my Natalia's gear together.
There you go. Someday. Just never use that thing until you have it all.
Yep. Yep. And like the 5, Ronald McDonald's that I have sitting in my stash at the moment.
Just waiting to be eaten.
Yep.
I do want to ask you, though, because you mentioned it, but you didn't fully explain. So why is CDR a damage boost within the Nat set for people who are still trying to figure it out?
Like 99.9% of your damage in the Nat set is going to be coming. 99.9. It's going to be from the Crashing Rain belt proc, as well as the Rain of Vengeance itself. Very little of your damage actually comes from the strafe and such. It's pretty much all that Crashing Rain proc, and cooldown reduction gets basically amplified further through the Natalia set bonus. So whenever you go through and do damage and reduces the cooldown by 2 seconds, obviously you have to do like the 15 attacks if you have 0 cooldown reduction to take it from 30 seconds down to 15, or 15 attacks to get it from the 30 down to 0. If you start off with your cooldown sitting at 15 seconds, you you get to do that crashing rain even faster.
Oh, that makes sense. So then it's not even about having the hatred to continue to strafe indefinitely. It's more about, oh, you just need less hits of strafe in order to get the cooldown down.
Exactly. I mean, one of the top builds out there for Natalia's uses, unfortunately, the Natalia Slayer would be useless in this one, but it uses dual the Danetta's set and Vault Action Shot because it does so many, for those little hits to get the cooldown of Rain of Vengeance. So all you're doing is vaulting and Rain of Vengeance in order to get that cooldown going so low. So it's cooldown reduction is like the creme de la creme when it comes to that build, just because all of your damage is in that belt affix.
Awesome. I know we took a little sidetrack there, but it's so cool to see how these new sets are just bringing crazy stuff back into the meta. You know, people are using the Dinettas, but just primarily for the speed runs or maybe for like some really quick T6 builds and stuff. But now it's so cool to see clearing greater rifts with them. Who would have thought?
It's not just greater rifts; it's like greater rift 49, seasonal.
Yeah.
It's been crazy. And then someone just cleared, at least on NA, the highest greater rift on NA for Era 3. The solo Demon Hunter a couple hours ago went through and cleared tier 59 using a Natalia Strafe build. So it is crazy. I can't wait to sit down. I just saw this right before the show. I was talking with people about it in the pre-show, but I can't wait to go through and watch that video. Just because I've been talking about this for the last couple episodes, but I want to do the Natalia set so bad. I don't have the gear. It is incredibly gear intensive.
Yeah.
For a Demon Hunter build, because Unhallowed Essence and Marauders is just like equip the set and you're at Torment 6
for sure.
And then it's just trying to get you to a higher greater rift from there. But with Natalia's, it does take a lot.
Yeah. Check back in future episodes to check up on DH progress for 9-ball.
Mm-hmm. And hopefully I've not lost any more Demon Hunters by the time we get around to the next episode.
Let's pray. All right, next up on screen is a coveted item by many people. It's a ancient corrupted Ashbringer, and this one is brought to you by Eremite. He's also a member of the Blizz Pro clan. We've been finding some items, man. Team's been doing work. We have 4,375.6 DPS on here, and nothing has been rerolled on this, by the way. So he has 10% damage affixed natively, 1,331 strength. It's got reduces all resource costs by 10%, and then a couple of secondaries, 13% damage to undead, and then 15,682 life after each kill. And then, of course, for those of you unfamiliar with the corrupted Ashbringer, it is a new item in 2.2, although not a new item to the Blizzard universes. And the legendary power on it is a chance on kill to raise a skeleton to fight for you. Upon accumulating 5 skeletons, they each explode for 1,000% weapon damage, and the sword transforms into Ashbringer for a short time. Attacking with Ashbringer will then burn your enemy for a range of 5,000 to 6,000 weapon damage as holy, and this one rolled 5,341%. This is an awesome item. I used it to level up my Crusader with the Gem of Ease, and it was noticeable when it transformed just how much it absolutely destroyed stuff. And so, this would hopefully do something for Eremite. I believe he's playing on a Barb, and this isn't necessarily one of the items that Barbs are using, but it's still early. Who knows? You could work it into some future meta build or something, so pretty crazy. And last but not least, we're going to round out our items of the week with this Hellfire Amulet, which when 9-ball told me about it, I said, oh, it's pretty good. And then I had to further reevaluate my statement because this is actually an insane amulet. So this was submitted by Power Axes. It's a ancient Hellfire Amulet, which is just hard enough to get on its own, but it rolled incredibly well. Poison skills deal 18% more damage, 914 intelligence, attack speed increased by 6%, it has a rerolled socket on there, arcane resistance at 196 for the secondary, and the passive that he got was Fetish Sycophants. So it's pretty tasty, right, Mr. 9?
Yes, that one definitely is very sexy. The attack speed, is still very good. Obviously it's using Fetish Sycophant, so this is going to be one of the pet builds. Attack speed is pretty good. Damage scaling for the Witch Doctor pets.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and now I believe all the Witch Doctor pets, like, or the sycophants and fetishes, they all scale off of your highest elemental percentage instead of just physical. So that poison itself also could come in very handy.
Nice. Yeah, man. So congrats to everyone that had an item featured this week. Really impressed by what you guys have got here. For those of you still looking and searching, as soon as you find it, send it on over to us because we want to feature it. But that brings us to the end of our show. We made it through episode 47.
Yeah, there is one last little bit while we're in community feedback, or just in community stuff in general, that I did want to go through and touch on. And that was a good friend of ours, Dr. Dreadscythe, went through and, yesterday uploaded his last episode of his ongoing podcast, The Scythe and Shield.
That's right, yeah. He is ending it after 20 episodes of Scythe and Shield. So it's nice that it ended on a nice round number, but of course sad that it's ending in general, because we love to see as many Diablo podcasts as possible, and his was actually a very good one too, just in terms of the quality of production, the topics that they would talk about, and even just the back and forth, the repartee between the hosts and stuff. Even if you couldn't necessarily agree with both sides, it just provided some really interesting food for thought in terms of, taking this game a step further and thinking about it more than just the actual playing and the slaying of the demons, but more of the development and stuff behind the scenes.
Yeah. And this, even though it's like the final episode, if you've never listened to any of his previous episodes, this would actually be not a bad one to start with. Because it's kind of funny. He doesn't actually host this one. Nevik from the Shattered Soulstone is the host in this episode, and Dreadscythe is the one that gets interviewed. So it's you get to learn a lot more about him and kind of like his journey through not just like Diablo, but through like the community and through his show and how it came about and such. So it actually it's kind of an interesting way. You start with the ending and then you can go back and listen to all the other ones, and it gives it a lot more context and feeling as you kind of go through on like his journey, and along with JC Monkey and some other people on the show. To just kind of see what it is and what their kind of feeling of community and such is.
For sure, and it wouldn't be I wouldn't be able to ruin a sentimental moment without a little bit of shameless self-promotion by saying that if you're fans of either of us as well, and of course Dreadscythe does a lot of stuff for BlizzPro, so he's not going anywhere. We'll be putting him to work now that we know he has more free time because he's not doing a podcast. Just kidding, Dread. But both of us, I believe, have appeared on past episodes of Scythe and Shield. So if for anything, you want to go and check those episodes out. But of course, there are lots of other really cool guests on there. I know that Tim Williams, who does the Cool Story Bro podcast, he got an interview on there as well. It was cool to hear his background because they don't go into a lot of like personal details on their podcast. So kind of you make the podcast circuit and you get the full story of everyone,
Oh yeah, definitely. And I mean, if you like his work, just keep around BlizzPro. He's part of our little family now. I mean, he did the wonderful overlay that you're staring at right now. He's done a lot of work in helping us out, and you can go through and see more of his stuff. At and around BlizzPro. He's helping out with the design of the website and stuff on the back end. It's really nice.
Absolutely.
And Dainty just went and shared the link in chat there, but we'll go ahead and give it to you here. It's scytheandshield.com.
Absolutely. Check it out. Highly recommend. All right, man. Were there any other last announcements or things that you wanted to leave the people with before we head out?
No. I think that about wraps it up.
Excellent. All right, man. What are you looking forward to besides Nat's pieces and rebuilding from the phoenix ashes of your past two team? I'm sorry.
Unfortunately, that's what I'm looking forward to right now. that is it. I guess other than that, the finals for my 40K league got pushed back. I'm in we're in the semis. We're supposed to be this weekend, but that's going to be next weekend now. And so my Necrons are going to go through and destroy everything.
Yes.
So yeah, look forward to hear how my army of Egyptian space Terminators are doing.
Excellent.
Yep, for anybody that cares.
There's at least one listener we know,
Yep,
if
at least
not
one
more.
listener.
Very cool, man.
If Jay Wilson listened to those podcasts, he would care.
He would care. All of his feedback wouldn't even be Diablo related. It'd just be all for Warhammer.
If I meet him or if I can find him at BlizzCon, I would just want to sit there and talk with him about 40K for like an hour.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
I guess that's something to mention too. We did cover BlizzCon. I almost said BlizzPro. BlizzCon. And we didn't note if we would be there or not. But we're both going, right?
Yes. Yep. That is the plan. We both planned on going to BlizzCon last year, and we saw how that turned out.
Yeah, truth.
Yeah.
So yeah, look out for us. We're trying to come up with possibly some cool things to, we have a few months now. So between now and then, we want to come up with cool stuff to do for community interaction and whatnot. So
Yeah.
you'll be hearing more details hopefully as time goes on.
Yeah, and if you have any ideas, because I know a lot of other podcasts, they take part in like either the World of Podcast, or they do like little fan meetups at the convention, or they give away shirts or just little things. If you have any ideas of something that you'd like to see from the show, by all means, go ahead and drop us a line, send us an email.
Perfect.
Mm-hmm.
And other than that, yeah, man, I am looking forward to getting back into the season and hopefully getting what do I need at this point? I need a couple more pieces on my barb. At Greater Rift 46, I think is the last one I cleared, so I just haven't been pushing leaderboards yet, but I'm looking forward to getting in there and really pushing and seeing what they can do. They've got like Greater Rift 52 cleared or something for hardcore. It's absolutely nuts. So we'll see. Thank you guys so much for tuning in. This has been episode 47 of Blood, Thieves, and Bands. A great title brought to us by Nineball. Please tune in every Wednesday. We're always here, twitch.tv/Leviathan111 for the live show. We go live at 6 p.m. Pacific, 9 p.m. Eastern. If you want to catch it when we're not live, you can always go over to YouTube. That's going to be SA Stewart 1 or BlizzPro. I'll put them on both. And it usually goes up quickly thereafter the live show. Of course, iTunes, Stitcher. If you want the audio-only version, that's always going to be available for you. And I also actually looked up iTunes and I saw we got a lot of nice 5-star ratings, so thank you guys for sending those in. Keep them coming if you really feel that way about the show. It's great to see that feedback, and it helps us out too, of course. Other than that, the WM Workshop on Twitter, Nineball Gamer for him, SA Stewart 111 for me. We're in the Westmarch Workshop in-game community all the time. That's been hopping with this season getting kicked off, and people, helping each other out, key runs, bounty bags, all sorts of good stuff. Stop on by and hang on out with us. We'd love to see you.
Definitely. We always love hearing from our fans.
All right, and until next time, be safe and loot well.
Be safer than me.
Nineball is bad.
Nineball is bad. Hashtag.